Okay, we're reading A Course in Miracles. We're on chapter 22. Chapter 22 is called Salvation and the Holy Relationship. And we're on section 5. And this section is called Weakness and Defensiveness. How does one overcome illusions? Surely not by force or anger, nor by opposing them in any way. Merely by letting reason tell you that they contradict reality. They go against what must be true. The opposition comes from them and not reality. Reality opposes nothing. What merely is needs no defense and offers none. Only illusions need defense because of weakness. And how can it be difficult to walk the way of truth when only weakness interferes? You are the strong one in this seeming conflict, and you need no defense. Everything that needs defense you do not want, for anything that needs defense will weaken you. Consider what the ego wants defenses for. Always to justify what goes against the truth, flies in the face of reason and makes no sense. Can this be justified? What can this be except an invitation to insanity to save you from the truth? And what would you be saved from but what you fear? Belief in sin needs great defense and at enormous cost. All that the Holy Spirit offers must be defended against and sacrificed, for sin is carved into a block out of your peace and laid between you and its return. Yet how can peace be so fragmented? It is still whole, and nothing has been taken from it. See how the means and the material of evil dreams are nothing. In truth, you and your brother stand together with nothing in between. God holds your hands, and what can separate whom he has joined as one with him? It is your Father whom you would defend against, yet it remains impossible to keep love out. God rests with you in quiet, undefended, and wholly undefending, for in this quiet state alone is strength and power. Here can no weakness enter, for here is no attack and therefore no illusions. Love rests in certainty. Only uncertainty can be defensive, and all uncertainty is doubt about yourself. How weak is fear, how little and how meaningless. How insignificant before the quiet strength of those whom love has joined. This is your, quote, enemy, unquote, a frightened mouse that would attack the universe. How likely is it that it will succeed? Can it be difficult to disregard its feeble squeaks that tell of its omnipotence and would drown out the hymn of praise to its creator that every heart throughout the universe forever sings as one? Which is the stronger? Is it this tiny mouse or everything that God created? You and your brother are not joined together by this mouse, but by the will of God. And can a mouse betray whom God has joined? If you but recognize how little stands between you and your awareness of your union with your brother, be not deceived by the illusions it presents of size and thickness, weight, solidity, and firmness of foundation. Yes, to the body's eyes, it looks like an enormous solid body, immovable as is a mountain. Yet within you is a force that no illusions can resist. This body only seems to be immovable. This force is irresistible in truth. What then must happen when they come together? Can the illusion of immovability be long defended from what is quietly passed through and gone beyond? Forget not, when you feel the need arise to be defensive about anything, you have identified yourself with an illusion, and therefore feel that you are weak because you are alone. This is the cost of all illusions. Not one but rests on the belief that you are separate. Not one that does not seem to stand, heavy and solid and immovable, between you and your brother. And not one that truth cannot pass over lightly and so easily that you must be convinced, in spite of what you thought it was, that it is nothing. If you forgive your brother, this must happen, for it is your unwillingness to overlook what seems to stand between you and your brother that makes it look impenetrable and defends the illusion of its immovability. Weakness and defensiveness. This little mouse. So Jesus is here likening the ego and in the ego thought system to a little mouse that is roaring. I think there was a book of that title, maybe a movie too, The Mouse That Roared. How, this is your enemy, a frightened mouse that would attack the universe. So, Jesus is saying over and over again in the Course that the ego really is nothing. Ultimately, it's nothing. But from where we are, on this side of the veil, it looks very, very daunting. It looks very real, very impenetrable. What is between us and our brother. And if you just think of someone in your life that you have an issue with, or they have an issue with you, and it looks like irreconcilable. Think of how many, divorces happen because of, quote unquote, irreconcilable differences. Like, for the life of you, you cannot get along. You cannot see eye to eye. You cannot see the other. You cannot live with the other person. Now, it's a question of if you are with someone. Let's take Helen and Bill, because they're they're kind of the prototypical classic example. They could not get along. Ken Wapnick, who saw them, who lived with them, he attested to this fact that they were, even when Helen was dictating the Course, they were still fighting. They probably fought for years, even while the Course was being taken down. And Bill apparently, no, I mean, on the surface, Bill was more of a student of the Course, but I think Ken has made the point that Helen, she was the high priestess. She was all the way there. She knew exactly what the Course was saying, and she, it was her party, and she could do what she wanted to do. If she didn't want to be nice to people, she didn't have to. And I think there's something to that, to consider that ultimately, there's more to this whole picture. I think when you get to the place of complete forgiveness, which she did get to, maybe you could do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. You realize it doesn't matter. But I think that said, even someone who is quote unquote enlightened, or has gone most of the way with this Course, if not all of the way, if that is even possible in this world, that person probably would be kind, right? Was Helen ever not kind? Well, maybe not. Maybe she was. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just, talking aloud right now. But that you have sided with the ego when you're letting weakness drive your choices, right? When you're coming from a place of lack, when you're coming from a place of guilt, when you're coming from a place of fear, where you're coming from a place of anger, resentment, revenge, jealousy, when any of those emotions, which really are all manifestations of fear. Fear is like the umbrella term. When any of those things are driving or motivating your action, or motivating your thoughts, you've chosen the wrong teacher and you're listening to the wrong voice. And what you would want to do if you are a sincere student of this course, what you would want to do is just note, observe, step back, ask just note, okay, I'm right now I'm very angry and I really want to do this, and I really want to tell this person off, and I really want to write them off, and I really want to tell them to fuck off, or whatever it is. But you step back and you look at it in the light of the Holy Spirit, right? And that's not, again, the ego, we usually follow the ego. That's our MO, and that is our default, is we follow the ego's voice, right? Someone comes at us, we come right back at them. Hardly ever in this world do people, come to go into that space of compassion and forgiveness and understanding and non-judgment. That is very rare in this world, but that can be learned. That's what Jesus is saying here, is that we don't think that can be learned. We think that that's impossible for that to be our default system. We think it's impossible for forgiveness and compassion to be the default, but it really can be. It can become automatic, where that is automatic for us. And what that would mean is that for us, we're living as if we don't have an ego. And Jesus says that in the course, is that the goal here is to realize that you do not need the ego. The ego, you think you need the ego, but you really don't. The ego is everything that's in the way of your peace, your joy, and everyone else around you. And the sooner you are open to seeing that and to making the necessary shifts, the happier, the more joyful, the more peaceful you're going to be, the more whole, centered, grounded, and everything else that you really want, you will have. It's going to be a process. Jesus says, he said that in the last section, the branching of the road, he said, that it's going to be hard at first. This is not going to be easy for you because you've been in the cave, you've been watching the shadows on the wall for a very long time, and now you're starting to come out of the cave, and you're resistant. You're still in your shackles, still, you're still bound and chained, and the light outside is very bright, and who wants to look at that when the darkness is so appealing. There's a great song I want to just mention real briefly. I've been thinking about it, and I've been learning it on the guitar. I mean, I've already really knew it, but I'm learning it again. It's the Indigo Girls, Closer to Fine. And they were coming from a Christian background. I don't know their whole story, but I believe the song was written by Amy Ray, and their whole trip was obviously very, very Christian oriented, but maybe more Gnostic than traditional Christian. And the song is basically saying there's more than one answer to these questions. There's more than one way to get there. And rather than to put yourself in the box, to stay in the box, to stay in your limited, to think that or that there's only one way, or there's only one answer to get to where you want to go, you're limiting yourself. And so, Jesus here is saying, don't limit don't come from any place of weakness or limitation. Be in your power. And the way to be in your power is not to give power to anything except that simple idea of the atonement. Accepting the atonement principle is all you need to do. Not that that's easy, but the atonement principle, again, is the separation from God never happened. And that means that we are not separate from each other either, because we're all part and parcel. We're all ultimately one. So if there's no separation, there's nothing outside of ourselves. We are all in this together in a deeper way than we even think. Even saying we're all in this together is not deep enough, because this is really saying we are all one. It's not even that we're all in this together. We are one. There's only one of us here that's in this together. Literally one, not just figuratively one. That is very hard to wrap your head around. That's very hard to accept. But being open to having the little willingness, having the openness to accept that is the key. And that's what Jesus also keeps saying here, is that all you need is that little willingness, and everything will be provided. If you have the desire to know the truth, if you have the desire to know God, then the doors will be open to you. That's why Jesus in the Gospels, he famously said, knock and the door will be open. Seek and you will find. Ask and the answer will be given. Love, truth, God need no defense. If they need no defense, then they need no offense. There's no attack necessary. There's nothing that needs to be done. God is not at war with anything. Love is not at war with anything. Love is just waiting. God is just waiting patiently for us to return. That's all. God is at home. It is us that have gone out for a walk, as Meister Eckhart once said. So that's all I got for right now. Let's just read a little bit before we close tonight. Forget not, this is the end. Forget not, when you feel the need arise to be defensive about anything, you have identified yourself with an illusion, and therefore feel that you are weak because you are alone. This is the cost of all illusions. Not one but rests on the belief that you are separate. Not one that does not seem to stand heavy and solid and immovable between you and your brother, and not one the truth cannot pass over lightly and so easily that you must be convinced, in spite of what you thought it was, that it is nothing. So you can be wholly at peace without any need for defending anything, and just accepting everything, and knowing, being in the knowledge that there is a maestro, there is a great conductor that's conducting this whole thing that is beyond our ken, beyond our understanding, and we don't need to fight. We don't need to fight life. We can accept life as it is and not fight any part of it, and not try to defend little pieces of life against other pieces of life. And next section is the light of the holy relationship. It's a long section, and it's gonna take us to the end of this chapter. So see you soon. Thank you for listening.